19. Reconciling the three approaches to value. Several days after Lisa decided to purchase the apartment building, she met Michael for lunch. "I finally received the appraisal," she said as she placed the report on the table. Michael flipped through the pages and noticed something interesting. The sales comparison approach estimated one value. The cost approach estimated another. And the income capitalization approach came in with a third number. He looked puzzled. "So which one is correct?" Lisa smiled. "That was my question too." This is one of the most misunderstood parts of the appraisal process. Many buyers and sellers assume the appraiser simply averages the three values together to arrive at a final opinion. In reality, that's almost never how an appraisal is completed. Instead, the appraiser performs what is known as the reconciliation process. Reconciliation is the final step in the appraisal assignment, where the appraiser carefully evaluates the strengths and weaknesses of each valuation approach before developing one final opinion of market value. Think of it this way. Imagine your physician orders 3 different medical tests. One test provides extremely reliable information, another offers supporting evidence, and the third has very little relevance to your specific condition. Your doctor wouldn't average all 3 results together. Instead, they would place greater reliance on the information that is most applicable and dependable. Appraisers follow a similar process. Let's look at a common Arizona example. Suppose you're listing a typical 3-bedroom home in Gilbert, located in a subdivision where dozens of nearly identical homes have sold over the past 6 months. Which valuation approach is likely to receive the greatest emphasis? In most cases, the sales comparison approach. Why? Because buyers purchasing that home are comparing it to other recently sold homes in the neighborhood, and there is an abundance of reliable market data available. Now imagine you're working with a client selling a newly constructed custom home in Flagstaff. Very few comparable sales exist because every home is unique. The appraiser may place greater reliance on the cost approach, since estimating today's construction costs provides valuable support for the final opinion of value. The sales comparison approach may still be used, but its reliability could be limited if comparable sales are scarce. Next, picture Lisa's apartment building in Phoenix. Investors purchasing multifamily income property are primarily interested in one question: how much income will this property produce? Because income generation is the primary motivation of typical buyers, the income capitalization approach may receive the greatest emphasis. Comparable sales and replacement cost remain important, but the property's earning potential often carries the most weight. Here's an important point that many new agents overlook. Every appraisal assignment is different. There is no rule requiring each valuation approach to receive equal consideration. In fact, appraisers may determine that one approach has little relevance depending on the property type. For example, would an appraiser spend significant time developing an income capitalization approach for an owner-occupied home that has never been rented and is located in a neighborhood of similar owner-occupied residences? Probably not. Likewise, would the cost approach be the primary indicator for an older subdivision with hundreds of recent comparable sales? Usually not. The appraiser's responsibility is to determine which approach or combination of approaches produces the most credible and well-supported opinion of value. Let's return to Michael and Sarah's home. When they reviewed their appraisal again, they noticed the appraiser clearly explained why the sales comparison approach received the greatest weight. The neighborhood contained numerous recent sales of similar homes, providing strong market evidence. The cost approach served as supporting information, while the income capitalization approach was given little consideration because the property was not purchased for investment purposes. This is something experienced Arizona brokers understand. Not every page of an appraisal carries the same importance. Instead of focusing only on the final value, experienced professionals read the appraiser's reasoning. They ask, why did the appraiser rely most heavily on this approach? Understanding that explanation often answers many of the questions clients have after receiving an appraisal report. Here's where many agents get into trouble. A client notices that the cost approach produced a value $35,000 higher than the final appraised value, and immediately concludes the appraisal must be wrong. The agent agrees without reading the reconciliation section. In reality, the appraiser may have fully explained why the cost approach was less reliable for that particular assignment. Taking the time to understand the appraiser's analysis helps agents provide better guidance and prevents unnecessary disputes. As Michael finished reviewing Lisa's appraisal, everything finally came together. He realized that appraising real estate isn't about plugging numbers into a formula. It's about analyzing market evidence, understanding buyer behavior, and applying professional judgment to determine which valuation methods best reflect how the market views a particular property. With the three traditional approaches now complete, you've built the foundation of residential appraisal methodology. In the next chapter, we'll begin looking inside the appraisal report itself. You'll learn how to read an appraisal like a professional, understand its major components, and identify information that can affect negotiations, financing, and successful closings. Broker tip: when reviewing an appraisal with your client, don't skip directly to the final value. Read the reconciliation section carefully. It explains why the appraiser relied on certain approaches more than others, and often answers the questions that buyers and sellers ask first. Online discussion: why don't appraisers simply average the values produced by the three appraisal approaches? Each appraisal approach has different strengths depending on the type of property and the available market data. Rather than averaging the values, the appraiser evaluates which approaches provide the most reliable evidence and gives greater weight to those methods when developing the final opinion of value. 2. Why does the sales comparison approach usually receive the greatest emphasis when appraising owner-occupied residential properties? Answer: most buyers of owner-occupied homes compare similar properties before making purchasing decisions. Because there are often numerous comparable sales available, the sales comparison approach usually provides the strongest indication of how the market values the property. 3. What should a real estate agent review before questioning an appraiser's final opinion of value? The agent should carefully review the reconciliation section, the comparable sales used, the adjustments made, and the appraiser's explanation of why certain valuation approaches received more weight than others. Understanding the reasoning behind the appraisal often resolves many client concerns before additional action is considered.